There is a dangerous mistake that compassionate people make again and again. They think that because they have the power to save someone, they have the responsibility to save them. They see someone drowning, so they reach out. Someone makes a terrible decision and they fix the consequences. Someone destroys an opportunity and they give them another. Someone betrays them and they forgive them. Someone refuses to change and they keep waiting for the person they could become. But there is a brutal lesson about human nature that most people learn too late. Not everyone who needs you deserves your rescue. Some people do not need your help. They need to experience the consequences of their own choices. And if you continually save a person from consequences they created themselves, you may think you are being compassionate, when in reality, you are helping them remain exactly the same. This is where intelligence must become stronger than emotion, because there are 6 types of people you must be extremely careful about saving. Not because you should become cruel, not because everyone is your enemy, but because your time, your energy, your money, your reputation, and your peace are limited resources. And the moment you give those resources to the wrong person repeatedly, their problems slowly become your problems. The first type of person you should never keep rescuing is the person who repeatedly creates the same problem. Everyone makes mistakes. That is not the issue. A good person can make a terrible decision. A disciplined person can fail. A smart person can lose money. A loyal person can choose the wrong relationship. Failure alone does not reveal someone's character. What reveals character is what they do after failure. Watch the person who makes the same mistake again and again. They lose their money because they are reckless. You help them. They lose it again. You help them again. They destroy a relationship through dishonesty. You advise them. They repeat the same behavior with someone else. They waste an opportunity. You create another opportunity. They waste that one too. Eventually, you have to stop asking, how can I save this person? And start asking, why does this person keep creating the situation I am rescuing them from? That question changes everything. Because consequences are not always punishment. Sometimes consequences are the only teacher powerful enough to produce change. If you constantly remove the cost of someone's decisions, you also remove the pressure that forces them to make better decisions. They fall, you catch them. They fall again, you catch them again. Eventually, they stop learning how to stand, and worse, they begin expecting you to be there whenever they fall. This is how generosity becomes a trap. You become responsible for problems you did not create. Their poor decisions become your financial burden. Their emotional chaos becomes your mental burden. Their lack of discipline becomes your responsibility. Their mistakes consume your time. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin living inside a life that you never chose. The strongest response is not always another rescue. Sometimes it is stepping aside, let them solve the problem, let them experience the consequence, let them discover whether they're actually capable of changing. Help the person who is trying to rise. Be careful with the person who keeps demanding that you carry them, because there is a difference between giving someone a hand and becoming the legs they refuse to grow. The second type of person you should never give unlimited access to is the person who repeatedly betrays your trust. Trust is one of the most valuable things you can give another human being. When you trust someone, you give them access to your thoughts, your weaknesses, your plans, your private information, your opportunities, your emotions, sometimes even your future. And that is why betrayal is so revealing. A disagreement attacks your opinion. Betrayal exploits your openness. There is a difference between someone who makes one terrible mistake and someone who repeatedly shows you the same pattern. The first may deserve forgiveness. The second deserves distance. This is where many people become weak. They listen to the apology. They remember the good years. They remember the laughter. They remember how that person once helped them. And because of those memories, they ignore what is happening now. But history is not evidence of present character. Someone can have been good to you once and still become dangerous to trust today. So stop studying promises. Study patterns. Anyone can say, I have changed. Anyone can cry. Anyone can apologize. Anyone can swear that it will never happen again. The real question is simple. What do they do after the apology? Do they change their behavior? Do they respect your boundaries? Do they accept responsibility? Do they become more honest? Or do they simply wait for your anger to disappear before repeating the same behavior? That is the test. And once someone has repeatedly shown you that they cannot protect your trust, stop giving them opportunities to prove the same lesson. You do not need revenge. You do not need to expose them. You do not need to hate them. You simply need to reduce their access. You can forgive someone without trusting them. You can wish them well without keeping them close. You can release your anger without reopening the door. This is not cruelty. This is intelligence, because forgiveness is emotional, trust is strategic, and access should be earned. The third type of person you should never keep saving is the person who only remembers you when they need something. You know this person. When their life is going well, they disappear. When they need money, they remember your number. When they need advice, suddenly you are their closest friend. When they need a connection, an opportunity, a favor, transportation, emotional support, or someone to solve their problem, suddenly they have all the time in the world for you. They call you. They praise you. They remind you how long you've known each other. They tell you how much they trust you. And then comes the request. The problem is that these relationships can look genuine for a long time because you remember the conversations. You remember the history. You remember the moments when you helped each other. But there is a more revealing test. Watch what happens when you have nothing to offer. Do they still call? Do they still ask how you are? Do they celebrate your success? Do they support you when you are struggling? Do they remember what matters to you? Or does the relationship suddenly become silent? This is one of the simplest ways to distinguish connection from dependency. A person who values you wants your presence. A person who values your usefulness wants your resources. And the difference becomes obvious the moment you say no. You do not have to insult them. You do not need a dramatic explanation.
Just say no.
Then watch. A genuine person may be disappointed, but they will respect your decision. A person who only values what you provide may become angry. They may guilt trip you. They may say, I thought I could count on you. They may suddenly become cold, or they may disappear. And when that happens, do not chase them. Pay attention. They just gave you information that you could not have purchased with 1,000 conversations. They revealed the true structure of the relationship. Sometimes someone leaving your life because you stop providing benefits is not a loss. It is a revelation. The fourth type of person you must be careful about saving is the person who secretly resents your success. This person is especially dangerous because they may not look like an enemy. They may smile when you succeed. They may congratulate you. They may accept your help. They may stand beside you for years. But beneath the surface, they are constantly comparing themselves to you. Your success reminds them of what they have not accomplished. Your discipline reminds them of their inconsistency. Your confidence reminds them of their insecurity. Your opportunities remind them of the opportunities they ignored. And instead of using your progress as inspiration, they begin experiencing it as a threat. Watch what happens when you start improving. Do they become genuinely happy for you, or do they immediately search for something wrong? When you accomplish something difficult, do they congratulate you, or do they explain why it wasn't really that impressive? When you become more confident, do they encourage you, or do they suddenly tell you that you are becoming arrogant? When you become ambitious, do they support you, or do they repeatedly tell you that your goals are unrealistic? Pay attention to these reactions, because people reveal themselves differently when you rise. A genuine friend can celebrate your success without feeling smaller. A secure person can watch you grow without needing to compete with you. But an insecure person may attempt to reduce you because your growth forces them to confront their own lack of growth. And this is where you must become careful. Do not confuse every disagreement with jealousy. Not every critic is an enemy. Sometimes the person who challenges you is the person who cares about you most. The difference is intention. Honest criticism tries to make you stronger. Hidden resentment tries to make you smaller. If someone repeatedly benefits from your strength while secretly attacking your confidence, stop giving them unlimited access to that strength. You can help someone without allowing them to undermine you. You can give advice without giving away your position. You can support someone without becoming their emotional target. And you never need to make yourself smaller so another person can feel comfortable standing beside you. The fifth type of person you should never keep rescuing is the person who refuses to change. This may be the hardest one to accept because sometimes their suffering is real, their problems may be real, their circumstances may genuinely be difficult. You listen, you advise them, you give them another chance, you create opportunities, you encourage them, and for a while, you keep believing that eventually something will change. But then you notice something, every solution you offer is rejected, every opportunity is wasted, every warning is ignored. Every mistake becomes someone else's fault, and every few weeks or months they return with another crisis. At some point, you must stop looking at the crisis and look at the pattern. Because a person can have terrible circumstances without surrendering responsibility. The person who wants to change may struggle. They may fall. They may move slowly, but there will be movement. They take responsibility. They make an effort. They learn. They adjust. They try again. The person who refuses to change behaves differently. They blame their family. They blame their partner. They blame their employer. They blame society. They blame bad luck. They blame everyone except themselves. And when you offer a solution, they explain why it cannot work. They are not looking for transformation. They are looking for relief. And if you keep providing that relief, you may unintentionally strengthen the behavior that keeps them trapped. This is why sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is stop interfering with the consequences. Let reality teach them. You cannot want someone's transformation more than they want it themselves. You cannot force discipline into someone who prefers excuses. You cannot build another person's character by constantly protecting them from the cost of having none. Help people who are making an effort. Support people who are willing to carry their share. Give opportunities to people who demonstrate responsibility. But when someone repeatedly refuses every path toward change, step back, not because you hate them, because you finally understand the limit of your responsibility. The sixth and most dangerous type of person you should never sacrifice yourself to save is the person who would never sacrifice themselves to save you. This is the lesson that destroys illusions, because sometimes you do not realize how one-sided a relationship is until you are the one who needs something. You were always there. You answered their calls. You defended them. You gave them opportunities. You listened to their problems. You protected their reputation. You gave them money. You gave them your time. You stood beside them when everyone else disappeared. And then one day you need them. You ask for something reasonable, and suddenly they are unavailable. They have an excuse. They are too busy. They cannot help. They disappear. That moment can reveal more about a relationship than years of promises, because dependence is not loyalty. Someone can need your money without loving you. They can need your connections without respecting you. They can need your protection without protecting you. They can need your attention without caring about your life. Being needed is not the same as being valued. And this is why you must stop measuring relationships by how much people need you. Measure them by what happens when you need them. Healthy relationships are not mathematical transactions. You do not keep a spreadsheet of every favor. Sometimes you give more, sometimes they give more. Life is not perfectly balanced every day, but over time, there should be evidence that your loyalty matters to them. If you are always sacrificing and they are always receiving, you are not building loyalty. You are building dependence, and dependence can become dangerous when the other person begins believing your sacrifice is an obligation. They may ask you to risk your reputation. They may expect you to lie for them. They may expect financial sacrifices that threaten your own stability. They may demand that you abandon your goals to solve problems they created, and if you refuse, they may accuse you of not caring. This is where you must become ruthless about responsibility. You can care about someone without carrying their entire life. You can love someone without allowing them to destroy your peace. You can forgive someone without rescuing them. You can support someone without sacrificing your future. Your future deserves protection too. Every hour you spend solving someone else's repeated crisis is an hour you cannot spend building your own life. Every dollar you repeatedly lose rescuing an irresponsible person is a resource that could have strengthened your future. Every ounce of emotional energy you spend managing someone else's chaos is energy you cannot invest in your own growth. This does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming strategic. Before you rescue someone, ask yourself two questions. If I help this person right now, will it actually make them stronger? Or will it simply make them more dependent on me? And then ask, if our positions were reversed, would this person make a similar sacrifice for me? You do not need perfect answers. You need to study the pattern because patterns reveal what words hide. And once you understand this, something changes inside you. You stop believing that being a good person means being available to everyone. You stop measuring your worth by how many people depend on you. You stop confusing guilt with responsibility. You stop rescuing people simply because you have the ability to rescue them. And most importantly, you stop allowing compassion to become self-destruction. There is a ruthless lesson hidden inside all of this. Your strength is not measured by how many people you can carry. It is measured by how wisely you choose what deserves your strength. Some people need a hand. Give it. Some people need guidance. Offer it. Some people need another chance. If their behavior justifies it, consider it. But when someone repeatedly shows you the same destructive pattern, believe what you are seeing. Do not let potential blind you to reality. Do not let history blind you to the present. Do not let guilt force you into permanent responsibility, and never confuse someone's dependence on you with their loyalty to you. Because the moment you understand the value of your time, your trust, your energy, your money, and your future, you stop giving them away simply because someone knows how to ask. You become selective. You become harder to manipulate. You become calmer. You become more difficult to exploit. And ironically, you may become more capable of genuinely helping people because now your generosity has boundaries, your compassion has intelligence, your loyalty has standards, and your help creates strength instead of dependence. Remember this, you are not here to save everyone. You are here to become strong enough to help wisely and disciplined enough to know when helping would destroy you. Sometimes the most powerful act of compassion is not pulling someone out of the consequences they created. Sometimes it is stepping back, letting reality become their teacher, and finally returning your strength to the life you are responsible for building, because your life is not a rescue mission, and your strength was never meant to be an unlimited resource for people who refuse to become stronger themselves. There is another level to this lesson that most people never understand. The real danger is not always the person you are saving. Sometimes the real danger is what saving them repeatedly does to you. Because every time you rescue someone from a consequence, you are making a decision about your own life. You are deciding where your time goes, where your energy goes, where your attention goes. And eventually, you may discover something uncomfortable. You spent so much time protecting other people from their lives that you stop protecting your own. A person can become addicted to being needed. They begin to believe that their importance comes from solving problems. Everyone calls them. Everyone needs them. Everyone has a crisis. And every time they solve one, they feel valuable. But there is a hidden trap inside this feeling. If you build your identity around being needed, you may start tolerating people who would otherwise have no place in your life. You forgive too quickly. You give too much. You explain too much. You sacrifice too much. Not because these people deserve it, but because you are afraid of discovering who you are when you are no longer rescuing them. This is why boundaries can feel uncomfortable at first. You are not only changing how other people treat you, you are changing the role you have played in their lives, and people who benefited from your lack of boundaries may not appreciate the new version of you. They may say you have changed, they may say you are selfish, they may remind you of everything they did for you. They may accuse you of becoming cold. But sometimes people call you selfish because you finally stopped being useful to them. Do not let their reaction make you doubt your decision. A boundary is not an attack. It is information. It tells another person this is where my responsibility ends. And this is where yours begins. There is another dangerous mistake people make. They give someone access because of their potential. They say, but I know they have a good heart. I know they could become successful. I know deep down they care. I know they are just going through a difficult phase, maybe. But you do not build relationships with potential. You build them with behavior. Potential is invisible, behavior is evidence. A person may have extraordinary potential and still be destructive. A person may have good intentions and still repeatedly hurt you. A person may love you and still be incapable of treating you properly. You cannot build your life around who someone might become. You must judge them by who they repeatedly choose to be. This is one of the hardest psychological shifts a person can make. Stop asking, who could this person become? Start asking, who are they consistently proving themselves to be? That question will save you years. Because people reveal themselves through patterns, not promises, not speeches, not emotional apologies. Patterns? Watch how they behave when they are angry. Watch how they behave when they are denied. Watch how they behave when you succeed. Watch how they behave when you stop giving. Watch how they behave when they have nothing to gain. These moments reveal character. Anyone can behave well when everything is going their way. The real test comes when they do not get what they want. That is when entitlement appears. That is when manipulation appears. That is when resentment appears. That is when you discover whether someone respects you or simply respects what you provide. And once you understand this, you become much harder to manipulate because manipulation depends on your emotional reaction. It depends on guilt. It depends on urgency. It depends on fear. It depends on your desire to be seen as a good person. Someone creates a crisis and expects you to react immediately. They make you feel guilty and expect you to prove your loyalty. They remind you of everything you have done before and use your past generosity as leverage for future access. But you do not have to respond immediately. You can pause, you can think, you can ask questions, you can observe, and sometimes the most powerful response is simply no. No long explanation, no emotional argument, no apology, just a boundary, and then watch what happens. Because the reaction to your boundary often tells you more than the request itself. A healthy person may accept your decision. An entitled person will try to negotiate it. A manipulative person will try to make you feel guilty. A dependent person will create another crisis. A resentful person may attack you. And a person who only valued your usefulness may disappear. Let them. Sometimes losing access to you is the consequence they needed to understand your value, but there is an even deeper lesson. You must learn to distinguish between compassion and responsibility. Compassion says, I understand that you are suffering. Responsibility says, I must fix your suffering. Those are not the same thing. You can understand someone's pain without becoming responsible for it. You can feel sympathy without surrendering your resources. You can care without carrying. This distinction is what separates emotionally mature people from emotionally controlled people. Immature compassion says, if I don't help, I'm a bad person. A mature compassion says, I will help when my help creates something good. That is a completely different mindset because sometimes your help creates strength and sometimes your help creates dependence. Sometimes your generosity gives someone a bridge, and sometimes it becomes a permanent crutch. You must learn the difference. Ask yourself, after I help this person, will they become more capable? Or will they simply return the next time the same problem appears? That single question can change the way you deal with people because the goal of meaningful help should not be to make yourself permanently necessary. The goal should be to make yourself eventually unnecessary. If someone becomes stronger because of your support, your help worked. If they become more dependent because of your support, your help may have failed. This is why strong people do not always give people what they ask for. Sometimes they give them responsibility. Sometimes they give them a difficult truth. Sometimes they give them space. Sometimes they give them the opportunity to fail. Because failure can teach what comfort never will. And this leads to another uncomfortable truth. Some people will only respect your boundaries after they experience the consequences of crossing them. You can explain yourself 10 times. They may not listen. You can politely ask them to stop. they may continue. You can tell them how their behavior affects you. They may ignore you. But when access disappears, they suddenly understand. This is why boundaries without consequences are often just requests. If someone knows you will always forgive them, your forgiveness loses its power. If someone knows you will always rescue them, your warnings lose their power. If someone knows you will always return, your absence means nothing. Your behavior teaches people how to treat you, and this does not mean manipulating people. It means becoming consistent. If you say you will leave when a boundary is repeatedly violated, leave. If you say you will stop giving money to someone who repeatedly wastes it, stop. If you say you will distance yourself from betrayal, create distance. Do not threaten consequences you are unwilling to enforce, because people learn more from what you tolerate than from what you say. And there is another person you must be careful about. The person who uses your guilt against you. They know exactly how to make you feel like the villain. You say no, they remind you of everything they have suffered. You protect your time, they accuse you of not caring. You protect your money, they call you selfish. You refuse to solve their problem, they tell you that a real friend would help. This is emotional leverage, and once you recognize it, you stop arguing with it. You simply refuse to accept the premise. You are allowed to care and still say no. You are allowed to love someone and still have boundaries. You are allowed to protect yourself without proving that you are a good person. Your kindness does not require evidence. Your worth does not depend on how much you sacrifice. And your life does not become selfish simply because you decide to protect it. Remember something important. There will always be people who need you. There will always be another crisis, another emergency, another request, another person who says, "You're the only one who can help me." Maybe you are, but that does not mean you must, because capability does not create obligation. Just because you can carry someone does not mean you should carry them. And just because you have more strength today does not mean you owe that strength to everyone around you. Use it wisely. Give it where it creates growth. Give it where there is effort. Give it where there is gratitude. Give it where there is responsibility. But be careful giving unlimited access to people who repeatedly prove that they will turn your generosity into dependence. Because eventually, the strongest thing you can do is not save someone. It is step back, let them face reality, let them discover their own strength, and let your own strength return to you. Your time, your attention, your money, your peace, your ambition, your future. These things are not unlimited, and the people who truly deserve a place in your life will not demand that you destroy yourself to prove that you care. They will understand your boundaries. They will respect your no. They will appreciate your yes. And most importantly, they will not make you regret being generous. So remember the six, the person who repeatedly creates the same problem, the person who repeatedly betrays your trust, the person who only appears when they need something, the person who secretly resents your success, the person who refuses to change, and the person who would never sacrifice for you the way you sacrifice for them. You do not need to hate these people. You do not need revenge. You do not need to expose them. You simply need to stop confusing access with entitlement. Stop confusing forgiveness with trust. Stop confusing compassion with responsibility. And stop confusing being needed with being valued. Because the moment you understand your own value, you stop begging people to appreciate your sacrifices. You stop trying to earn loyalty through suffering. You stop rescuing people who would gladly watch you drown, and you finally understand one of the most ruthless lessons about human nature. The strongest person is not the one who saves everyone. The strongest person is the one who knows exactly who deserves to be saved and who must be left to save themselves.